This video is brought to you by the Army Painter. Hello my friends, Kiwa here. Today I'll be sharing 4 different ways to paint orc skin fast using Army Painter air paints. Since you'll almost certainly have a whole lot of these guys, getting the skin done with an airbrush is by far the most efficient and time-saving way to paint orcs. Any of these methods could be enhanced with judicious use of washes and recess shading, but that's not essential, and the finished models will look great either way. Mixing and matching from these recipes is also a great way to add a little variety and diversity of tones to your orcs, if you don't want them to all be the same. After all, the only specification for orc skin is green, and there are lots of different types of green. For painting tutorials and more, head over to goonhammer.com, link in the description. The first method gives us a nice warm olive green colour. After the model's been primed black, we're going to spray the whole thing with militia green, making sure to get a solid cover all over, keeping the coats thin to avoid flooding. This sets our shadow colour nicely and gives us a good solid base to build on. The next paint we'll be using is Army Green, which will be the mid-tone and the largest area of colour in the final thing. We're spraying from above and to the side at around 45-degree angle to avoid the most shaded bits, applying soft thin coats to give us a nice easy blend from the deepest shadows into the mid-tone. Our third paint is Drab Green. This sets our highlight tone, and as such we're going to spray it directly from above, without much in the way of horizontal angle. This represents the sun hitting from directly above. In technical terms, we'd call this kind of painting zenithal lighting. You might have heard this phrase before. It derives from the term zenith, which refers to the point directly above something. Flipping right to the other side of the colour spectrum, our second recipe yields a dark skin tone that's very cold. Following established orc physiology, this makes it perfect for nobs and other high-ranking units. We'll start with Unforgiven Green, which is a green so dark it's almost black. As before, we'll cover the whole model with this in light, thin coats. Similar to the first recipe, we spray everything but the deepest parts of the model with Angel Green. As long as your paint isn't too thickly applied, rather than using a hairdryer, you can blow clean air from your airbrush to dry your paint. Finally, we can paint the top with some Exile Green. Since this boss model is more complicated than your standard boy, I'm making sure to get some of the Exile Green on top of his pecs and abs to give them a nice, volumetric appearance. This recipe gives us a paler green that's still a little warm, ideal for grots and goblins. We start with Gremlin Green, which is tonally somewhat similar to the drab green we used on the first orc. Once again, all over in light coats. For some reason, this triad reminds me of the mushy peas we used to have in school. Paint number 2 is Goblin Green, which is pretty saturated and gives us a nice mid-tone, though in the ultimate finished result it'll act more like a light shadow tone than a true mid-tone, because paint number 3 is Bogey Green. This is a super bright pale green, and I have to be honest with you, I've never had any bogeys this colour, but perhaps the people at Army Painter have some horrendous allergy issues we don't know about. Once again, this is sprayed from above, although usually when I spray zenithal highlights I turn the model upside down, because painting from directly above is a bit of a pain in the ass. I like to freely move the model in my hands in concert with the airbrush to make things easier. The final recipe is closest to our standard old school green orc skin, a vibrant, neutral green. Starting with Savage Green all over, same as before. Savage Green is a bit more neutral compared to the other greens, each of which has a relatively strong colour cast one way or the other on the colour wheel. Next, shockingly, we're going to use the paint Greenskin as our mid-tone, covering everything except the deepest bits and pieces. And finally, Feral Green, from directly above in the typical zenithal fashion. This way to paint things like orc skin is so effective because you're going to have a lot of models to get through. Each of these examples took no more than 5 minutes of real time, and if you batch painted, you could probably get the skin on a full 10-man squad of boys fully painted and battle ready inside of half an hour. I've been Kiwa. For more painting guides, hobby how-tos, and other Warhammer related content, pay a visit to goonhammer.com. Like and subscribe here on YouTube, and consider supporting us on Patreon. Thanks for watching.